It is the evening of November 12th, 2010. A young man is sitting at his computer in the evening. He has just spent a few pleasant days with one of his brothers, who is visiting their mother. They don't usually get along very well, but as they said goodbye, they promised each other they would see each other more often soon and work on improving their relationship. Now, a few days later, the 19-year-old is scrolling through the news from the previous day. Suddenly, his gaze lingers on a recent report. A murder has taken place in a place he knows well. There are also some photos, taken in front of the house where the crime apparently occurred. And he recognizes this house immediately. He immediately grabs his phone and calls the police. He tells them he just found this article about a murder in SKARA. He says he's very worried about his mother. He had visited her just a few days ago in that very house. But what the police tell him next is beyond anything he could have imagined. Helle Christensen is 40 years old and the mother of 5 children. The youngest turned 5 in 2010, and her oldest child is 19 years old. However, all 5 children live with their respective fathers. Helle has been on sick leave for quite some time and is therefore unable to work. Previously, she worked at a nursing home in Borås, Sweden. However, in 2009, she had to seek treatment herself in Borås due to mental health issues. Helle finds peace when she can paint or draw, and she loves dogs, even though her current financial situation naturally doesn't allow for her to have one of her own. Her other dream, perhaps opening a tattoo or piercing studio, also seems a distant prospect at the moment. Her children visit her from time to time, but Helle has a closer relationship with her sister Britt. Although Britt tries to help Helle get her life back on track, she regularly fails to do so. All she can do is be there for Helle and always lend a listening ear. And so it's no wonder that one day Helle introduces her sister to the man she has fallen in love with, Isakin Jonsson. He is 8 years younger than Helle and is himself the father of a daughter who often comes to visit him on the weekends. After Helle and Isakin make their relationship official, there is a big gathering with the whole family. Isakin doesn't make a particularly good impression on Britt, though. Somehow he seems intimidating, and Britt immediately gets the feeling that he's not a good person. But at least he's good with the kids. Nevertheless, Britt's first impression is later confirmed. She has to pick up Helle several times when Isakin has lost his temper again. Even though it's not entirely clear what happens during these outbursts, Britt gives her sister's partner a stern warning. If he doesn't pull himself together around Helle, he'll have her to deal with. But soon, Helle moves in with Isakin in the town of SKARA, where the two move into an apartment in a multifamily building. During the fall break of 2010, 2 of Helle's sons come to visit. It's the first time in a long while that they've seen Helle again. The visit goes well. The 40-year-old gives her sons the impression that she is doing fine. So well, in fact, that Helle and her sons promise each other as they say goodbye that they want to visit more often from now on. But unfortunately, that will not happen. Because on November 12th, Isakin Jonsson makes a call to the emergency dispatch center. An operator answers the call and can hardly believe what the man on the other end is saying.
I want to do what's right for me. I have no idea what I did, but I woke up and bit a piece of meat off the girl. I tried to fight for my medication. The psychiatric ward doesn't want me. Now I've lost it.
When the police arrive, Helle Christensen is lying dead on an air mattress in the apartment. The scene that greets the police is horrific. Not only is the 40-year-old woman dead, but Isakin had also already confessed to the 911 operator that he had eaten parts of her body. The call to 911 lasted until the moment the police arrived at his home. Isakin immediately provided his personal information and address, but also issued a warning.
No drawn weapons or anything like that, because otherwise I'll draw mine too. You know, I can't control it. I hear voices like this, and God and stuff, telling me to do things, but I don't want to. But maybe I have to do it, because we're all going to die eventually anyway.
However, the emergency dispatcher managed to keep Isakin Jonsson under control and relatively calm until the officers arrived. This was necessary so that the police could even begin to grasp what was going on in Isakin and Helle's apartment. Her body is lying on an air mattress. Her head is in the kitchen next to the sink. There is also a frying pan there, in which meat had apparently been cooked just a short while ago. Isakin is immediately arrested and taken to a nearby police station for questioning. The 32-year-old already has several entries in his police record for theft and drug offenses. While this may sound like relatively minor offenses, he has nevertheless been convicted 9 times for such crimes alone and has spent time in prison on multiple occasions. In addition, he had been treated in psychiatric facilities several times since childhood. Most recently, he apparently had significant trouble continuing his treatment. Just a few hours before Helle's murder, social services visited the couple for a routine check-in to ensure everything was in order. The official didn't notice anything amiss. In the afternoon, Isakin and Helle went shopping. Isakin went to a nearby liquor store to buy 4 bottles of strong beer and Jägermeister. Afterward, according to Isakin, there was an argument at home over a few minor issues. The crime must have taken place between 5 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. He recounts what he had already told the emergency call center, that he had killed his partner. During questioning, he also says, "I'm at my most dangerous when I haven't taken my medication." The day after the murder, he says in a further interrogation that he realizes he must appear very unmoved. But the day before, it had felt to him as if someone else had been acting through him. He himself didn't know why he had severed Helle's head and carried it to the kitchen sink. He felt as if he were in a movie. One moment he had killed Helle, and then, as he put it in court, the next image is that I'm in the kitchen. The head is there, then I'm in the middle of frying. He says he used several weapons in the crime: a knife, a camping axe, and a saw. He also admits to having molested the corpse after the murder. After his arrest, the 32-year-old was examined by specialists in Gothenburg. It probably won't surprise you too much that the experts diagnosed a severe mental disorder. The question of why he committed the crime remains unanswered. His lawyer says there is simply no motive. The reason for the crime, he claims, is that his client was mentally ill. The perpetrator does not refuse to testify, but states that he can no longer remember much. He does, however, still remember how he slit Helle's throat. He also reiterates what he had already said in the emergency call, that he was facing problems regarding the treatment of his mental illnesses. In court, Isakin describes how he had already sensed that his condition was rapidly deteriorating, yet he had been unable to secure a spot in a psychiatric facility. When the prosecutor asks why Isakin killed Helle so brutally, he replies, "I wonder that myself." Later, Isakin describes the day of the murder as follows.
That day, I took a lot of medication, painkillers, Imovane. I drank alcohol, so I was psychotic. At that moment, I thought, now I'll do something so they can never doubt that I'm sick. And as for whether I'm mentally ill because I'm capable of something like this, well, maybe I am.
Isakin Jonsson will not be sentenced to prison, but will instead undergo closed forensic psychiatric treatment with a special release review. The reason for this is his severe mental disorder, which was not further diagnosed in court. In addition, he must pay damages of 75,000 kroner to both Helle Christensen's parents and each of her children. That amounts to approximately $7,500 each. The perpetrator shows no emotion after the verdict is announced. In the police car, however, he gave the middle finger to a newspaper photographer. Isakin Jonsson was admitted to the ward at Kassun Hospital outside the city of Katrineholm. There, the difficulties continued as he refused to take his medication for months after his admission. And this, despite the fact that he had implied to the police and the court that his inadequate treatment had been one of the triggers for the murder. For Helle's surviving relatives, the trial against the murderer of the 40-year-old was only partially satisfactory. That is why Helle's sister, Britt, even sent a letter to her sister's killer at the psychiatric ward. In it, she asks for answers to the question of why, but Britt has not received a helpful answer. She assumes that Isakin simply murdered her sister to taste human flesh. Britt probably also often thinks back to the times she picked up Helle after Isakin had become angry, and to the fact that even back then, she had frequently noticed injuries on Helle, sometimes just bruises, but once even a triple leg fracture. Once, Helle laughed and said she had simply tripped clumsily over a shovel. Unfortunately, it is not uncommon in cases of domestic violence for victims to downplay their injuries or find excuses for them. Admitting to yourself that you are in an abusive relationship is difficult. Breaking free from it is even harder. However, there is considerable evidence that such patterns had been present in the relationship between Helle and Isakin for some time. For instance, investigators seized Helle's diary after her murder, and that, unfortunately, suggests that Britt was right to be suspicious about the injuries. In an entry written shortly before her death, Helle writes that Isakin has different personalities, and he speaks of punishments for all that is evil. She also writes about mood swings and his aggressive behavior toward her, but also, "I can handle it because I love him." Apparently, however, Helle had recently been trying to break free from the relationship. According to Britt, she reached out to a woman and asked for help finding new housing. Nevertheless, the woman had to promise Helle that under no circumstances would she involve the police. Unfortunately, this attempt to find a new place to live never came to fruition. While Helle's life was taken, her killer is being treated in a psychiatric clinic. Although he is, logically enough, initially housed there permanently, Isakin Jonsson is not completely cut off from the outside world. For instance, every Friday he is granted a 4-hour pass during which he is allowed to stroll through Katrineholm. He also has internet access and, of course, the opportunity to connect with all sorts of people. Among other things, he runs a blog where he answers questions from other users and talks about his life in the psychiatric ward, and about the crime too. But whenever Britt comments, he never responds. He also gives interviews. Speaking to the Swedish newspaper Expressen, he says,
"I stand by what I did. I don't blame others, neither society nor my childhood. I don't blame anyone. I did it, period. The only ones I feel remorse toward are my relatives and their children. They are innocent and have to suffer."
He craves attention so much that he's even started uploading YouTube videos. In a video, Isakin answers questions from international users in broken English. The topics are mundane, things like his hobbies or his favorite food, but there are also glimpses into his inner world. For example, he says, "I'm not a racist," or, "Actually, I am a racist. I hate everyone, except for a few people in the world. There's nothing about people that I like." When asked if he feels the urge to commit another murder, Isakin replies quite succinctly, "Not right now." At the forensic psychiatric facility, Isakin even meets a new woman. Michelle Gustafsson is known in Sweden as the Vampire Woman and is also a convicted murderer. She earned her nickname because she had been running a blog on the internet even before her murder. In uploaded photos, she poses like a vampire with bloody lips, sometimes also with knives and a chainsaw. But the relationship falls apart again. The murderer has a new name in the meantime, however. After lengthy and highly publicized disputes with the authorities, he had his name changed from Isakin Jonsson to Isakin Jonsson. Several years after the crime, he is assigned an apartment where he is repeatedly allowed to spend time outside the facility. By arrangement, he is also able to get 2 consecutive days of leave for occasions such as a wedding. In August 2020, Isakin Jonsson moved into his own apartment in Katrinau, and his treatment shifted from inpatient to outpatient care. During his time in the psychiatric ward, Isakin was still allowed to receive visitors, including his minor daughter. She was born in 2001 and was therefore only 9 years old when her father became a murderer. Isakin separated from Jamie Lee's mother when the girl was still a toddler. In the early years, the relationship with her father was great, Jamie Lee says. But around the age of 5, she began to feel afraid of her father from time to time. She reports that visits to her father always felt a bit like walking into a horror movie, because he had decorated the apartment with posters of such films. And for a child of elementary school age, these images can certainly make an unsettling impression. It is even more questionable to share such interests with one's child of all people. Jamie Lee reports,
"He often talked about the devil, demons, and evil spirits, and when I was little, he liked to introduce me to the other world. We'd lie on the bed in the dark and he'd ask, 'Do you see the faces on the wall? Can you see them?' Then he'd repeat it so many times that I finally actually saw them."
The situation improved somewhat when Isakin started dating Helle. Jamie Lee liked her right away and suddenly felt as if she had a second mom. But during her weekend visits, Jamie Lee witnessed several heated arguments between Isakin and Helle. Once, Jamie Lee recalls, Isakin yelled at Helle that he would kill her. Even before the murder, she visited Helle and Isakin again for a weekend. For Jamie Lee, it was the worst weekend of her life. Helle suddenly behaved very differently toward her. Although she had always gotten along well with Jamie Lee, she ignored the girl during this visit and barely spoke to her. It was only during a meal together that Helle is said to have told the then 9-year-old the following: "Enjoy your meal, because this will be the last time I cook for you, because Isakin is going to kill me." Helle's death deeply traumatized Jamie Lee. For years, she blamed herself for not doing anything as a 9-year-old to stop her father. At the time, the other children wanted nothing more to do with the daughter of the SKARA cannibal. That is exactly why Jamie Lee sought contact with her father again back then, so she wouldn't lose at least him. When Jamie was allowed to visit him at the clinic, he did make time for the girl, but he increasingly drew her into a destructive mindset. And the more Jamie Lee turned to negative thoughts, the more isolated she became from everyone except her father. She even told Isakin she no longer wanted to live, but instead of getting help, he performed a sort of ritual for the devil with her, in which Jamie was supposedly supposed to surrender her soul to be freed from her pain and granted power and recognition. She started drinking at an early age and dropped out of school at 15. Around this time, Isakin told his daughter more about Helle's murder and how he claimed it had unfolded. His account differs significantly from what we have heard so far. Isakin told his daughter at the time that Helle had wanted to die. Moreover, she had wanted Isakin to kill her and had asked him to do so every day since the beginning of their relationship. He deliberately acted in such a brutal manner to end up in a psychiatric hospital rather than in prison. Shortly after this conversation, a major argument breaks out between Isakin and Jamie Lee, which ultimately leads to a rift between the two. This is how Jamie turns things around and manages to break free from her father's manipulation. A TV documentary follows Jamie Lee as she tries to come to terms with being the daughter of a murderer. The documentary makes it clear that Jamie Lee is doing much better. Isakin claims it's due to his satanic ritual and not Jamie's hard work. In the show, Jamie also confronts her father about the murder of Helle. When an editor places a photo of Helle on the table and asks Isakin how he feels seeing the photo, he says nothing. And he repeats that Helle had repeatedly asked him to kill her, and that he had simply given in the end. Accordingly, it wasn't murder, and he isn't a murderer. He never planned to eat parts of her or abuse her corpse. In fact, he only staged the necrophilic acts and never actually committed them. He had tried to reenact his own horror movie in his apartment. After all, he is an artist. It goes without saying that this doesn't sound like Isakin Jonsson is in any way sorry for what he did to Helle Christensen, her family, and his own daughter by murdering Helle. Today, Jamie Lee is herself a mother of two and has built a happy life with her partner and the children's father. On social media and in interviews, she still sometimes talks about her father and the emotional abuse he inflicted on her. As she explicitly states, not to profit from the fact that her father is a murderer, but to show other people that one can heal from anything. What a shocking case. It seems to me that he's constantly trying to draw attention to himself through actions like changing his name or his relationship with the vampire woman. I hope that instead, those who are still suffering from Isakin's actions today have had a chance to speak out. People like Britt, the sister of the murdered Helle, or his daughter, Jamie Lee. If you found the video interesting, feel free to leave a like or subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Other than that, there isn't much more to say. I hope you're having a good morning, afternoon, or evening, whichever time you're watching this, and I hope to see you again in the next video. Until then, ciao everyone.